Hey, it's Drew Bennett from Big Damn Kid, and I have issue number 30 of Transformers, the introduction of the Throttlebots. Who the heck are the Throttlebots? I was not that versed in who the Throttlebots were. They weren't part of the cartoon, but they appeared in the comic book, and now, like, this is rereading them now is kind of brought that all back into my mind. I don't quite remember all of them, but there are five Throttlebots, and you can see in this part here, we've got the five of them. They're fighting at a Decepticon fuel depot, so they're trying to get as much Decepticon fuel as they can. They call themselves juice boosters, and so they're stealing fuel from the Decepticons. As we know from the past few issues, there is a Decepticon fuel auditor who's not going to take kindly to this, and by the name of Ratbat. And the Autobots, they end up overwhelmed. We got a Decepticon drone there, and they give up. They surrender, and they're brought before Ratbat. You know, they're lucky. They could have been brought in front of the smelting pool or something like that, but no. They're brought before Ratbat. Ratbat decides that he's going to send these Autobots to Earth to fulfill a mission, something that they would not send a Decepticon to do because it's probably a suicide mission. So, he explains to them that Astrotrain and the Triple Changers are down there on Earth and they've been infected with Scraplets, and so the Throttlebots ask him, are we going to bring them a cure? And Ratbat is like, no, we're not going to bring them a cure. You're going to go down and you're going to destroy them and destroy all the Scraplets so that the infestation does not continue. So they are sent to Earth with no weapons or anything like that, just with some acid, and they're going to use that acid to fill up the crater and kill everything that's in there, which means all the Triple Changers, all the Scraplets, and our buddy Blaster. So having all of those guys dead, that's going to be tough. So that's what the Throttlebots have to do. And here they are. Those are the five Throttlebots. So we've got, I want to make sure if I got these all right. I know this is Wide Load. I know this is Rollbar. And then there's also Chase and Freeway and, what's the other guy's name? See, I can't remember because they don't really do much in this one. Searchlight. Okay, so Searchlight, I think, is the blue dude, and Freeway is the white one, Chase is the red one. Okay, so we got Chase, we got Searchlight, Freeway, Rollbar, and Wide Load. Okay, so they get sent to Earth, and back on Earth, we got our buddy Charlie Fong, and he is pushing Bumblebee through the desert. He is dehydrated. He is about to give up. Basically, you know, sprawls out there by Bumblebee at the base of a hill, and he hears cars. He goes up the hill and he looks, and there is a Blackrock gas station. Lucky for them that they're everywhere, and it's the only gas station in the Transformers universe, in the comic books at least. So at the Blackrock fuel station, there's a couple of guys out there, and they see Charlie, you know, coming out through the, you know, coming up over this hill with Bumblebee, and they like give him water. As they give him water, some water falls onto Bumblebee. It hits some of the Scraplets. They hiss and they fall off. Charlie has realized that's the cure. They've found the cure. Apparently on Cybertron, they don't have water. And so, or it's very, very rare. So they don't have a cure for Scraplets. And Charlie goes to grab for the water because he wants to wash down Bumblebee and cure him. But the two guys restrain him, think that he's kind of crazy. So they restrain him there. And they also tell him that water is so scarce there that they have to bring it in by tankers. Okay? So Charlie is unable to cure Bumblebee at this time. Meanwhile, back at the crater, which they say is like 108 miles away, they got pretty far in the desert. Him pushing Bumblebee. So he must have driven for quite a while and then pushed them the last little bit, because that's a long ways through the desert. So the 5 Throttlebots come through the space bridge. They survey what's happening. Blitzwing looks up and says, we're surrounded by Autobots, and Blitzwing, Octane asks if they're attacking, and Blitzwing says, I don't intend to find out. So he's going to transform into jet mode, and he's going to fly on up there. Unfortunately, or fortunately, he is infected with Scraplets, so he can't do much. He ends up crashing. He doesn't realize how his strength has weakened him. And some of the Scraplets dislodge when he hits the side of the crater, and they see the other robots at the top of the crater, and they say, more food. So they start heading up the crater. So these little critters are heading up the crater. Meanwhile, up on the rim, Freeway realizes that there are some tracks leading out of the crater. So, they say we gotta assume whoever left was infected, so we have to go after them. So Rollbar and Wide Load transform into their Earth modes. So you see one's a Jeep and one's a dump truck. They were given Earth modes, or modified by Ratbat, so that they had Earth modes to go through the terrain of Earth. And they drive off. They end up finding Bumblebee. So I don't think they drove off through the desert, but they were following his tracks. It doesn't seem like they drove out through the desert, but maybe they did. Anyway, the two guys are still restraining Charlie, who's all, he got to get water on Bumblebee. Meanwhile, Bumblebee, the two Throttlebots, they transform, and he calls one of the guys, hey, no thanks, soft skin. Calls the human soft skin. So they call him fleshling, they call him all these other things, but soft skin. So they are there with the acid, and they are basically gonna, kill Bumblebee. And Charlie's like, wake up! And Bumblebee wakes up, jumps out of the way so that he doesn't get doused with the acid. And they fight with the Throttlebots. The fighting continues, the Throttlebots are after him. And Charlie picks up some Scraplets that came off in the fight, and he throws them onto Wide Load and infects Wide Load. And Wide Load freaks out. You just infected me with this thing that we're trying to get rid of, and you've infected me with it. But Charlie quickly thinks, he goes and he gets a bucket of water and he splashes it onto Wide Load, and he shows him that yes, there is a cure. So you don't have to kill Bumblebee. There's a cure here, and we're going to get the cure. He finally gets the chance to wash down Bumblebee and save him. Then he and Bumblebee make a very special phone call to Mr. G.B. Blackrock. So G.B. Blackrock, who owns all the Blackrock gas stations and such, he can get a couple of tankers of water and get it out to them right away. So Bumblebee lets him know, asks him for that. They're always asking him for something, The poor guy, he's quite generous. He's not what I thought he was at the beginning of this when I started reading this again. I always thought G.B. Blackrock was just, an awful guy. But he's not. He's pretty selfless, going in and helping the Autobots all the time. So back at the crater, you got the Decepticons and Blaster. They're waiting around to find out what's going on, and there are like a ton of Scraplets there. And Wide Load tows Goldbug back. Did I say Bumblebee throughout this? It's Goldbug. He's Goldbug now. I keep trying to. Anyway, so they are going to decide, what they're going to do at this point, and Bumblebee, tells them that, we've got tankers coming. Don't dump the acid. G.B. Blackrock had to bring the tankers himself, so he brought the tankers himself, and Bumblebee is going to spray down everybody in the crater, and it looks like the Scraplets are coming after him too. But as Bumblebee goes, he yells down to Blaster, hey Blaster, can you hear me? We've got the cure. First he says, Goldbug, is that you? You came back. And he's like, I have a cure, Blaster. We're preparing to spray it on you. And Blaster says, a cure? And then the Decepticons is like, alright, if he cures you, Autobot, he'll have to cure us too. Of course, Blaster wouldn't want to help us too, now that we're old. Of course, Blaster would want to help us too, now that we're old friends. You know, he does not want to be there with those guys. And so he shouts up to Goldbug, send down the acid. I'd rather die than help these guys. So, you know, Bumblebee now has a choice. What is he going to do? And he decides, you know, he says, release the acid. And so he's going to send down the acid, and he's going to end up killing his friend. But he doesn't get the chance to do so because a giant Scraplet monster comes up. And the Scraplet monster wants to, you know, feed on the robots there. So they try spraying him, but suddenly a hole appears in the middle. So these Scraplets are very organized. The Scraplet monster grabs the tanker and picks it up and throws it. Meanwhile, he gets... they try to spray him again, but they end up spraying the tanker. Really? They didn't get his legs or something like that? Take out his legs. He's a big guy. Take him out at the knees. So he takes that tanker and tosses it across the crater and smashes it. Now, you know, GB's like, hey, you know, that was my truck. And, you know, I may be rich, but you keep blasting and blowing up all my stuff. And so Bumblebee says, you know, they don't have any weapons. The Throttlebots didn't come over with any weapons. Ratbat's not going to send them out with any weapons. He barely has any weapons. So what he's going to do, he's going to go for the guys down in the crater who do have weapons. And he goes and he sprays them down. Blaster tells them to stop. And the Decepticons, as they get free of the Scraplets, they transform, they come up, and they fight the Scraplet monster. So they start attacking the Scraplet monster. Blaster finally gets strong enough to free himself. And Blaster then makes his way out of the crater. Okay, so Blitzwing's attacking. He cuts off one of the legs of the Scraplet. He's attacking. Astrotrain and Octane, they're attacking. And actually, Astrotrain is paying attention. He realizes that GB Blackrock says something that's important here. He says, careful, Goldbug. I may be a big shot in the energy business, but tank trucks don't grow on trees. And, you know, Astrotrain thinks to himself, okay, because he has a secondary mission. Their mission isn't just to find the package. He's got a secondary mission. And so Octane and Blitzwing basically get the Scraplet monster down for the count. Blaster comes up, grabs the other tanker, and smashes it onto the monster and kills it. So that Scraplet is completely dead. That Scraplet monster, they're all dead. And you know, now that it's all done, let's see, it's all done. I can get back to work. And well, GB says, I'm glad that's over with. Now I can get back to work. Astrotrain says, not so quick, Fleshling. From what I've overheard, you're just the type I've been looking for. And Astrotrain shoots this little thing at GB Blackrock. It hits him in the forehead, douses him with some sort of light, and then drops off. All within like a millisecond. Nobody else sees this. And he kind of feels a little funny. They say, you know, we got to get him home. And Blaster says, you know, forget him. And he says, look, what's happening is the 3 triple changers are taking that payload from the freighter and flying it off to the rest of their mission. So Goldbug and Blaster, they have a reconciliation together. Goldbug tells him, I'm sorry. And Blaster says, sorry, what are you talking about, Goldbug? You know, I thought you might be angry with me for taking off on you. He's like, yeah, I'm angry, but I was a lot angrier when I thought you abandoned me to die in that stinking pit. I was so blinded with rage that I couldn't think about you as anything but a traitor and a coward. And so they finish off the smoldering husk of the Scraplets. And Blaster basically says, I'm glad you came back, Goldbug. You made me see that the true you again. I guess every ill has its cure. And we will find out what is in that payload that the Triple Changers took off with the next issue, which is the Car Wash of Doom. I recall the Car Wash of Doom, and it looks like from the cover of it, we're going to see one of our old friends again. So looking at that cover, I see Buster and Ratbat. So you'll see that tomorrow. That's coming up in issue number 31. But this was issue number 30. I liked it. I liked seeing the Throttlebots do something. I'm not sure how much they're going to be sticking around, but I'm going to have to look up on eBay, see where, what they look like as far as toys. I don't know if they had any special gimmick, if they were the ones that you pulled back and let go. I don't know if that was the case with those guys, but it seems like that's something that like the Throttlebots would do. I remember the Jump Starters, who came out at the same time as the Battle Chargers, Run Amok and Runabout. The Jump Starters were Twin Twist and Top Spin, and they were going to get a Twin Twist figure coming out soon as part of the Titans line. And I actually picked up a Bumblebee from the Titans line and a Gnaw. Gnaw turns into one of the Sharkticons. So I've got those. I'm going to do a review of those maybe in a couple days. Who knows? I'm not sure exactly when I'm going to do that. But anyway, this is Drew Bennett from Big Damn Kid. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook as Big Damn Kid. You can also find me here making videos every single day. And I'd love it if you subscribe. If you were to leave me a comment, let me know what you think. Have you read these comics? What do you think of what I'm talking about with the comics? Leave it in a comment below. That'd be fantastic. Anyway, thanks for watching.